I'm Rebecca Weber, and you're listening to AMAC's podcast, Better for America. Today's episode is brought to you by the AMAC app. The AMAC app is your go-to landing spot for up-to-date real news, polls, and interactive games, in addition to all of the great money-saving benefits that AMAC has to offer. Just search AMAC in your app store and download. Now, there's no question that tyranny has arrived in America. We have seen this left-wing mindset accelerate greatly since Joe Biden took office, and we're seeing the weaponization of our government agencies, covert government efforts to censor free speech, and really woke virtue signaling in all areas of society, just to name a few. The book, Freedom is the Foundation: How We Are Defeating Progressive Tyranny by Taking on the Government Unions, that book shares stirring accounts about how dedicated patriots are defending their rights while attempting to defeat the most powerful government in history. To talk about his book, we are delighted to have with us today the CEO of Freedom Foundation, Aaron Withe. Aaron, welcome to Better for America.
Thank you for having me on, Rebecca.
Well, thank you so much. I wanted to give you the chance right away, right from the start. Tell our listeners about your new book. I know it's very detailed, but if you could give us a broad view, please go ahead and share.
Sure. Freedom is the foundation that makes America the greatest country in the world, but we have the left today, and specifically government unions, attacking that foundation every single day. So what this book details is how government unions, like teachers' unions, spending other people's money, teachers' dollars, to get progressive, radical candidates elected into office, and how they pursue their radical agenda, which includes CRT, which includes sex ed in our schools, which is a high tax and spend policies. So the book details that, but more importantly, it details how we're fighting back, how we go and win the fight against government unions and stop America turning into a socialist country.
And it's such a very important topic. You know, my father, Dan Weber, founder of AMAC, back in the 60s, the 50s, the 60s, he saw that there was some good in unions, that they were protecting workers and helping to provide for a safer work environment. Today, things have changed so much. My question for you, sir, is how did you first become passionate about defeating government unions? And what does the average person listening not know, perhaps, about how big and powerful these unions have become?
Sure, good question. So I was born and raised in Birmingham, England, basically a socialist country today. And you look over there and it's these radical leftist socialist policies that have turned England into a place where there's no opportunity to prosper, where there's no opportunity for people to get out of poverty. And that is exactly what the left and government unions are trying to do in America. Now, your dad's right, there was some good in unions, specifically private sector unions. You look in the early 1900s when private sector unions were stopping 12-year-olds from working 10-hour days and dying in the coal mines and on the steel mills. Certainly at that time there was a big need for unions, but you're telling me that you look at government unions, the unions that are representing state workers or county or city employees or teachers, these people are not at risk of dying in the coal mines anymore. These people have luxurious benefits. They have retirement benefits that far outweigh what you can get in the private sector. And that's no disrespect to any of the public servants out there, but it's not a sustainable system that we have right now when you look at some of these government union benefits that they've put out there. So what we do at the Freedom Foundation is we seek to educate every single public employee in America of their rights when it comes to union membership.
You know, I just love that you're doing that. But share with our listeners some surprising facts, perhaps, that you have uncovered that many Americans are not aware of about the power of these public unions.
Yeah, I mean, I started at the Freedom Foundation in 2015, and I was one of the people that went door to door to tell people that they could leave their unions. This is all outlined in the book too, but one of the things that I found on really quickly was that most people that I was visiting with had no idea that a lot of them didn't even know they were in a union. But second of all, they didn't know how much they were paying in union dues. And your average teacher they're paying around $1,100 a year in union dues. Most of that money is being spent on politics. I'll give you a good example. The National Education Association is the biggest teachers union in America. And in 2021, they brought in just over $300 million in dues revenue. They spent over 50% of that money on political gifts, on gifts to nonprofits, and lobbying. They spent just 7.5% of that budget on what they call representational services, meaning they only spent 7.5% of their budget on actually representing people, but over 50% went towards a political agenda. These unions do not seek to represent people, they seek to pursue a political agenda. And that's one of the major problems that we have with government unions in America.
You know, last month, your website, Freedom Foundation, posted an article regarding the New Jersey Teachers Union, which is one of the largest teachers unions in the country. And at its 2022 convention, I found this shocking. The union hired drag queen entertainment, boasting LGBTQ, society, and were reading these banned books. There were even workshops entitled Healthy Teen Sex. How dangerous are these union executives, and what must be done to help more Americans see through their dangerous agenda? Like, how do we fight back to protect the innocence of our youngest children?
Yeah, it's sick, Rebecca. It's difficult to actually talk about. We have exposés coming out basically every month for the Freedom Foundation, like these drag shows that are being forced on children by unions. I mean, bottom line is this: these unions have gone so far left, so far socialist that they're now promoting drag shows. They're promoting CRT, and their goal is now not to. They've taken over our public education system, and their goal is not to get the next generation of workers ready for the workforce or get kids prepared for college. It's to raise the next generation of liberal voters to go out and pursue the union's political agenda. I think public schools in some states, in some cities, are one of the most dangerous places to send our kids when you think about the indoctrination that's happening today. And it's all the agenda of the unions, because teachers, these people are heroes. I mean, my wife up until last year was a public school teacher. I mean, they go to school to teach, so they can go into the workforce and teach reading, writing, and math, and prepare kids for the next phase in their lives. They do not go to teach critical race theory. They do not go to college to then go out and teach sex ed to elementary school kids. They just don't. This is the unions pushing this agenda in our public schools, and we must stop it.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a friend who's got a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, and the youngest is 4, going into kindergarten. And I have a granddaughter who's going into kindergarten. And I was talking about how sick I am that she's got to go to public school. It's very expensive, private schooling, and even some of the private schooling, you really have got to do your homework to understand how they may be influenced. But this friend of mine said, well, let's pray that the teacher is smart enough to understand that 5 years old is much too young to have these kinds of conversations. It's inappropriate, it's wrong, and it's something that should happen between a parent and child when you're discussing your child's sexuality. Kids at 5 years old, they don't have their brains haven't developed. It's that simple, Aaron. But isn't it such a sad thing that parents today, labeled as, terrorists, called Nazis, for saying, stop, we've got to get this stuff out of our school district. Just unbelievable. We want to encourage people here at AMAC to do the good work, the kind of work that you're doing. Aaron, you began working at Freedom Foundation in 2015, and you created this door-to-door campaign to let Oregon workers know about their right to leave their union. And I think your effort was highly successful. It's cost unions big. You mentioned more than $300 million. So the Freedom Foundation is really not a think tank, it's a battle tank. How do our listeners, AMAC members, get involved?
Yeah, so what we do at the Freedom Foundation is we cut unions' funding at the source. What we do is we tell every public employee in America that they can opt out of their union and stop paying union dues. As I mentioned, they're paying about $1,100 a year in union dues. This is money that belongs in their pockets. The problem is most public employees have no idea that they can leave their unions, and if they do, they have no idea how to execute on that. So we at the Freedom Foundation make it as easy as possible for people to leave. We go to their homes, we go to their offices, we send them mail, emails, we do digital marketing, and if there's any public employees listening, optouttoday.com is our website dedicated to helping public employees. If listeners want to get involved more, I'd encourage them to go to freedomfoundation.com as well. Sign up for our emails, share our stuff on social media, and buy and share the book. Freedom is the Foundation is an expose on the problem that we have with unions in America today, and that's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble right now.
What initially drew you to America, and what do you love most about America?
Yeah, so I came over in college. I came over as a basketball player and to play basketball in college. And I didn't really know a lot about politics or business or, frankly, anything except how to put a basketball into a hoop, and I was average at that even. But I ended up getting a scholarship to come over here. But what I learned quickly was that this is the land of opportunity. But it's the land of opportunity because of capitalism and because of the conservative values that we hold. It's the left and government unions and socialism that's trying to turn America into the same country that I just left, England. So I made a vow pretty early on that I wasn't going to allow my kids to grow up in the same environment that I did. I want them to have opportunities to prosper. And as you mentioned, I started at the Freedom Foundation in 2015, an intern. I was basically the guy going door to door. Working in this hot summers, knocking on doors, helping people to get out of their unions. And 6 years later, I was appointed to be CEO of the same organization. So I tell people I'm living my version of the American dream. It may be a non-profit, but it certainly is a dream for me to be in this role.
Wonderful. And, here at AMAC, we are really doing all we can to protect and preserve the future generations. That was part of the vision for AMAC. Before AMAC, there was only one organization that represented those 50 plus here in America and lobbied on their behalf. Today, Americans have a choice. They don't need the AARP. They can join AMAC. And our members, which is really interesting, Aaron, they perceive one of the biggest threats tied to what's happening to our children, the indoctrination of our children in schools. What do you think is one of the biggest threats that America is facing today that's impacting American greatness?
Yeah, I think it is the teachers' unions. And Mike Pompeo was asked a similar question not that long ago, and he said that the biggest threat to America right now is Randy Weingarten, head of the American Federation of Teachers, which is the second largest teachers' union in America. I mean, what they're doing to our youth, to our kids that are growing up and trying to just get through school is crazy, and it should worry everybody. Everybody should be concerned about this. The biggest funder of the left in America today is not George Soros or some other sector of business. It's government unions. They're the number one funder of the left in America today. And the scandal of it is that they've taken this money from teachers. They've taken it from state workers, from county workers, from city employees, your everyday people just trying to get by. They take this money and they funnel it into radical left-wing causes that most people don't agree with. I think the best example is the new mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. He's a radical leftist. 95% of his campaign funds came from government unions. Not only would he not be the mayor of Chicago today if it were not for government unions, you would never have heard of the guy. But they propped him up. Now he's the mayor of Chicago. What do you think he's going to do when he's in office? He's going to do exactly what he's told by government unions. And that is exactly the problem that we have here.
Sure. Too much power, too much control, and essentially then they own him. I'm so glad to have you with us today. This is a very important message, and for all of our listeners, opt out, learn more, and keep more of your own money. Make sure that your money is not going to support a leftist agenda which you don't agree with. This is really important. Aaron Withe, the work that you're doing, we applaud you. It was so great to have you on today to share with us all of this information and your book, which I'm excited to send our AMAC members over to. But your story is really beautiful. Thank you again for being here. One last time, tell our listeners where they can get their hands on your book.
So go to freedomfoundation.com, or if you're on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, the book is called Freedom is the Foundation.
Freedom is the foundation. Aaron Withe, again, thank you. God bless you. Keep up the good fight. And thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Rebecca.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can listen to more just like it. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, or by downloading the AMAC app. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your podcast, Better for America. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful evening.